All right, we are coming up on 8 o'clock. So, let's get settled. Get comfortable, grab a drink, pull up a chair. Because we've got another classic to return to tonight. Welcome back. Tonight is our third night reading from Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms. Now, before we get started, I do need to get a couple socials out. One of these days, I will get around to automating these. But for now, it's easy enough as it is. So, let's see, there's one. Here's another Discord server that we're going out and letting our friends know that we're going live on. And then we've got one more to do. And then one last little bit, because as you reposted mine, I need to repost my own, because that's what we do as we pretend to be growing a community of following. Alright, I think that gets us all of the bits and bobs. So, let's take it back from the top. Welcome back. This is our third night reading from Ernest Hemingway's A Farewell to Arms, a glimpse of one of history's most brutal conflicts, the absolute meat grinder that was World War I, the tipping point between a more modern war front and the classical sense of war. And in that transition, there were a lot of things still being figured out, like war crimes. Those weren't really crimes yet. They were just what you did in war. But we're away from the front now, and into one of the stood-up military hospitals for expats abroad, or foreign, or I don't even know what the term is, but for Americans that are not fighting under their own flag. So we're off of the front. We've seen our narrator's unit crumble to pieces under artillery fire. The more outspoken of and more aware, I won't say red-pilled because actually the man was spitting facts, the more aware of the situation and reality, unfortunately, was one of the casualties of that. So, I actually have one last little bit to do, because I do need to pull up my monitor stream for Twitch. I've got the monitor stream for YouTube up, but there's always something to be said for making sure that we've got a clean connection and bill of health. Alright. Yes, that's absolutely true. The introduction and development of industrialized warfare, the really pioneering of the military-industrial complex was happening in World War I. Before that, it was rifles and some cannons and some field guns. Things really started to go off the rails as technology was adopted on the war front. And as the capitalists decided that there is a good way to make a quick buck in this. So yes, it was when things really, really started to get bad. And so, as such, it is one of the most horrific moments in human history, as far as, at least in modern history. Before we decided collectively to pull our punches in certain arenas, or with the invention of new and interesting ways to kill each other. Ha ha! So, let's get a look at this situation. We're away from the front now, and as we gain some distance, the characters gain a little bit more perspective, and so do we. Yes, absolutely. Part of why France did so poorly was they were still sort of in a semi-Napoleonic stance, and they were not prepared for the style of warfare that was being foisted upon them, and others as well. But I mean, France got absolutely brutalized in both world wars. It comes from being near the neighbor of one of the aggressors. Yeah, just unfortunate, really. But I'm not really here to do a history lesson. We'll leave that to chat, and for maybe the book itself. I'm just here to read. All the extra hangings on, well, that's just some extra sauce on top, right? So, let's get back to it. We left off last time toward the start of Book 2 of A Farewell to Arms. I think we're only a chapter or two deep. We're transitioned into the hospital after the disastrous attack that happened that night. Which, while disastrous, the Italians won the attack, mind you. So, perspective. And this is all while the Italians are on the side against the Austrians and Germans at the moment. As you may recall, in the early 1900s, Italy had a habit of flip-flopping a little bit. Just a wee bit. About as firm as a pasta. Alright, so let's resume with chapter 16. That night, a bat flew into the room through the open door that led onto the balcony, and through which we watched the night over the roofs of the town. It was dark in our room, except for the small light of the night over the town, and the bat was not frightened, but hunted in the room as though he had been outside. We lay and watched him, and I do not think he saw us because we lay so still. After he went out, we saw a searchlight come on and watched the beam move across the sky, and then go off, and it was dark again. I'm having all sorts of downstream issues with my connection these days. The upstream seems to be okay, but I am definitely having trouble with my monitors. Having a hard time staying live and not buffering. But as long as the feed is alright, I think we're okay. A breeze came in the night, and we heard the men of the anti-aircraft gun on the next roof talking. It was cool, and they were putting on their capes. I worried in the night about someone coming up, but Catherine said they were all asleep. Once, in the night, we went to sleep, and when I woke, she was not there, but I heard her coming along the hall, and the door opened, and she came back to the bed and said it was all right. She had been downstairs, and they were all asleep. She had been outside Miss Van Kampen's door, and heard her breathing in her sleep. She brought crackers, and we ate them, and drank some vermouth. We were very hungry, but she said that would all have to be gotten out of me in the morning. I went to sleep again in the morning when it was light, and when I was awake, I found she was gone again. She came in looking fresh and lovely and sat on the bed, and the sun rose while I had the thermometer in my mouth. We smelled the dew on the roofs. And then the coffee of the men at the gun on the next roof. "I wish we could go for a walk," Catherine said. "I'd wheel you if we had a chair." "How would I get into the chair?" "We'd do it." "We could go out to the park and have breakfast outdoors." I looked out the open doorway. "What we'll really do," she said, "is get you ready for your friend, Dr. Valentini." I thought he was grand. I didn't like him as much as you did, but I imagine he's very good. "Come back to bed, Catherine, please," I said. "I can't. Didn't we have a lovely night?" "And can you be on night duty tonight?" I probably will, but you won't want me." "Yes, I will." "No, you won't. You've never been operated on. You don't know how you'll be." "I'll be all right. You'll be sick, and I won't be anything to you." "Come back then now." "No," she said. "I have to do the chart, darling, and fix you up." "You don't really love me, or you'd come back again." "You're such a silly boy." She kissed me. "That's all right for the chart. Your temperature isn't always normal. You've such a lovely temperature." "You've got a lovely everything." "Oh, yes, smooth, Mr. Man." "Oh, no, you have the lovely temperature. I'm awfully proud of your temperature." "Maybe all our children will have 5 temperatures." "Our children will probably have beastly temperatures." "What do you have to do to get me ready for Valentini?" "Oh, not much, but quite unpleasant." "I wish you didn't have to do it." I don't. I don't want anyone else to touch you." "I'm silly. I get furious if they touch you." "Even Ferguson?" "Especially Ferguson and Gage and the other. What's her name?" "Walker." "That's it. They've too many nurses here now. There must be some more patients, or they'll send us away. They have 4 nurses now." "Perhaps there'll be some. They need that many nurses. It's quite a big hospital." "I hope some will come. What would I do if they sent me away?" "And they will, unless there are more patients." "I'd go too." "Don't be silly. You can't go yet. But get well quickly, darling. And we will go somewhere." "And then what?" "Maybe the war will be over. It can't always go on." "I'll get well," I said. "Valentini will fix me." "He should, with those moustaches. And, darling, when you're going under the ether, just think about something else, not us. Because people get very blabby under an anesthetic." "What should I think about?" "Anything but us. Think about your people, or even any other girl." "No." "Say your prayers, then. That ought to create a splendid impression." "Maybe I won't talk." "That's true. Often people don't talk." "I won't talk." "Don't brag, darling. Please don't brag. You're so sweet, and you don't have to brag." "I won't talk a word." "Now you're bragging, darling. You know you don't need to brag. Just start your prayers or poetry or something when they tell you to breathe deeply. You'll be lovely that way, and I'll be so proud of you. I'm very proud of you anyway. You have such a lovely temperature, and you sleep like a little boy with your arm around the pillow, and you think it's me. Or is it some other girl? Some fine Italian girl?" "It's you." "Of course it's me. Oh, I do love you, and Valentini will make you a fine leg. I'm glad I don't have to watch it." "And you'll be on night duty tonight?" "Yes, but you won't care. You wait and see. There, darling. Now, you're all clean inside and out. Tell me, how many people have you ever loved?" "Nobody." "Not me, even." "Yes, you." "How many others? Really?" "None." "How many of you, how do you say it, stayed with?" "None." "You're lying to me." "Yes." "It's all right. Keep on lying to me. That's what I want you to do." "Were they pretty?" "I never stayed with anyone." "That's right. Were they very attractive? I don't know anything about it. You're just mine. That's true, and you've never belonged to anyone else. But I don't care if you were. You have. I'm not afraid of them. But don't tell me about them. When a man stays with a girl, when does she say how much it cost? I don't know. Of course not. Does she say she loves him? Tell me that. I want to know that. Yes, if he wants her to. Does he say he loves her? Tell me, please, it's important. He does if he wants to. But you never did? Really? No. Not really. Tell me the truth. No. I lied. You wouldn't, she said. I knew you wouldn't. Oh, I love you, darling. Outside, the sun was up over the roofs, and I could see the points of the cathedral with the sunlight on them. I was clean inside and out, and waiting for the doctor. And that's it, Catherine said. She says just what he wants her to. Not always, but I will. I'll say just what you wish, and I'll do what you wish, and then you will never want any other girls, will you? She looked at me very happily. I'll do what you want, and say what you want, and then I'll be a great success, won't I? Yes. She's kind of getting a little heavy here. What would you like me to do now that you're all ready? Come to bed again. All right, I'll come. Oh, darling, 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 I said. You see, she said, I do anything you want. You're so lovely. I'm afraid I'm not very good at it yet. You're lovely. Well, a response to him getting blown up and her previous fiancé getting blown up. She might have a type, actually, now that we're thinking about it. I want what you want. There isn't any me anymore. Just what you want. You sweet. I'm good. Aren't I good? You don't want any other girls, do you? No. You see, I'm good. I do what you want. All right, that brings us to chapter 17. Looks like this is... We're skipping over the surgery, which is probably for the best. Our narrator was presumably under ether, so nonsensical. When I was awake after the operation, I had not been away. You do not go away. They only choke you. It's not like dying, it is just a chemical choking, so you do not feel, and afterward you might as well have been drunk, except that when you throw up, nothing comes but bile, and you do not feel better afterward. I saw sandbags at the end of the bed. They were on pipes that came out of the cast. After a while, I saw Miss Gage, and she said, "How is it now?" Better," I said. "He did a wonderful job on your knee." "How long did it take?" 2 hours and a half. Did I say anything silly? Not a thing. Don't talk, just be quiet. I was sick, and Catherine was right. It did not make any difference who was on night duty. There were 3 other patients in the hospital now. A thin boy in the Red Cross from Georgia with malaria, a nice boy, also thin, from New York, with malaria and jaundice, and a fine boy who had tried to unscrew the fuse cap from a combination shrapnel and high-explosive shell for a souvenir. This was a shrapnel shell used by the Austrians in the mountains with a nose cap, which went on after the burst and exploded on contact. Good Lord, the boy's lucky to be alive. Catherine Barclay was greatly liked by the nurses, because she would do night duty indefinitely. She had quite a little work with the malaria people. The boy who had unscrewed the nose cap was a friend of ours, and never rang at night, unless it was necessary, but between the times of working, we were together. I loved her very much, and she loved me. I slept in the daytime, and we wrote notes during the day when we were awake, and sent them by Ferguson. Ferguson was a fine girl. I never learned anything about her except that she had a brother in the 52nd Division and a brother in Mesopotamia, and she was very good to Catherine Barclay. Will you come to our wedding, Fergie? I said to her once. You'll never get married. We will. No, you won't. Why not? You'll fight before you'll marry. We never fight. You've time yet. We don't fight. You'll die then. Fight or die. That's what people do. They don't marry. Girls feel a little down, I guess. I reached for her hand. Don't take hold of me, she said. I'm not crying. Maybe you'll be all right, you two. But watch out, and don't get her in trouble. You get her in trouble, and I'll kill you. I won't get her in trouble. Well, watch out, then. I hope you'll be all right. You have a good time. We have a fine time. Don't fight, then, and don't get her into trouble. I won't. Mind you, watch out. I don't want her with any of these war babies. You're a fine girl, Furry. I'm not. Don't try to flatter me. How does your leg feel? Fine. How's your head? She touched the top of it with her fingers. It was sensitive, like a foot that had gone to sleep. It's never bothered me. A bump like that could make you crazy. It never bothers you? No. You're a lucky young man. Have you the letter done? I'm going down. It's here, I said. You ought to ask her not to do night duty for a while. She's getting very tired. All right, I will. I want to do it, but she won't let me. The others are glad to let her have it. You might give her just a little rest. All right. Miss Van Campen spoke about you sleeping all the forenoons. She would. It would be better if you let her stay off nights a little while. I want her to. You do not. But if you would make her, I'd respect you for it. I'll make her. I don't believe it. She took the note and went out. I rang the bell, and in a little while Miss Gage came in. What's the matter? I just wanted to talk to you. Don't you think Miss Barclay ought to go off night duty for a while? She looks awfully tired. Why does she stay on so long? Miss Gage looked at me. I'm a friend of yours, she said. You don't have to talk to me like that. What do you mean? Don't be silly. Was that all you wanted? Do you want a vermouth? All right, then I have to go. She got out the bottle from the armoire and brought a glass. You take the glass, I said. I'll drink out of the bottle. Here's to you, said Miss Gage. What did Van Campen say about me sleeping late in the mornings? She just jawed about it. She calls you our privileged patient. The hell with her. She isn't mean, Miss Gage said. She's just old and cranky. She never liked you. No. Well, I do, and I'm your friend. Don't forget that. You're awfully damned nice. No, I know who you think is nice, but I'm your friend. How does your leg feel? Fine. I'll bring some cold mineral water to pour over it. You must itch under the cast. It's hot outside. You're awful nice. Does it itch much? No, it's fine. I'll fix those sandbags better. She leaned over. I'm your friend. I know you are. No, you don't. But you will someday. Catherine Barclay took 3 nights off night duty, and then she came back on again. It was as though we met again, after each of us had been away on a long journey. Each of the nurses have their own quirks here. The very dour and depressive of the first nurses that we saw there. This one who is very insistent that she's a friend. And the old biddy who is very not so friendly. Alright, chapter 18. We had a lovely time that summer. When I could go out, we rode in a carriage in the park. I remember the carriage, the horse going slowly, and up ahead the back of the driver with his varnished high hat, and Catherine Barclay sitting beside me. If we let our hands touch, just the side of my hand touching hers, we were excited. Afterward, when I could get around on crutches, we went to dinner at Biffy's or the Grand Italia, and sat at the tables outside on the floor of the Galleria. The waiters came in and out, and there were people going by, and candles with shades on the tablecloths, and after we decided that we liked the Grand Italia best, George, the head waiter, saved us a table. He was a fine waiter, and we let him order the meal while we looked at the people, at the great Galleria in the dusk, and each other. We drank dry white Capri, iced in a bucket, although we tried many other wines, Fresa, Barbara, and the sweet white wines. They had no wine waiter because of the war, and George would smile ashamedly when I asked about wines like Fresa. "If you imagine a country that makes a wine because it tastes like strawberries," he said. "Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't it?" Catherine asked. "It sounds splendid." "You try it, lady," said George, "if you want to. But let me bring you a little bottle of Margaux for the tenente." "I'll try it too, George." "Sir, I can't recommend it to you. You two. It doesn't even taste like strawberries." "It might," said Catherine. "It would be wonderful if it did." "I'll bring it," said George, "and when the lady is satisfied, I'll take it away." It was not much of a wine. As he said, it did not even taste like strawberries. We went back to Capri. One evening I was short of money, and George loaned me 100 lire. "That's all right, Tenente," he said. "I know how it is. I know how a man gets short. If you or the lady need money, I've always got money." It sounds like that wine is a bit like a LaCroix. It smells like a strawberry the same, or it tastes like a strawberry the same way that a LaCroix smells like a fruit that smells like something that was driven by a fruit truck. After dinner, we walked through the Galleria, past the other restaurants and the shops with their steel shutters down, and stopped at the little place where they sold sandwiches. Well, seltzers are fine. They just don't expect anything more from them than bubbly mineral water. That's really all they are. Ham and lettuce sandwiches and anchovy sandwiches made of very tiny brown glazed rolls, and only about as long as your finger. They were to eat in the night when we were hungry. Then we got into an open carriage outside the Galleria in front of the cathedral and rode to the hospital. At the door of the hospital, the porter came out to help with the crutches. I paid the driver, and then we rode upstairs in the elevator. Catherine got off at the lower floor where the nurses lived, and I went on up and went down the hall on my crutches to my room. Sometimes I undressed and got into bed, and sometimes I sat out on the balcony with my leg up on another chair and watched the swallows over the roofs and waited for Catherine. When she came upstairs, it was as though she had been away on a long trip, and I went along the hall with her on the crutches and carried the basins and waited outside the doors or went in with her. It depended on whether they were friends of ours or not. And when she had done all there was to be done, we sat on the balcony outside my room. Afterward, I went to bed, and when they were all asleep, and she was sure they would not call, she came in. I loved to take her hair down, and she sat on the bed, kept very still, except suddenly she would dip down to kiss me while I was doing it. I would take out the pins and lay them on the sheet, and it would be loose. I would watch her while she kept very still, and then take out the last 2 pins, and it would all come down, and she would drop her head, and we would both be inside of it. It's like the feeling of inside a tent or behind a falls. She had wonderfully beautiful hair, and I would lie sometimes and watch her twisting it up in the light that came in the open door, and it shone, even in the night as water shines, sometimes just before it is really daylight. She had a lovely face, and a body and lovely smooth skin, too. We'd be lying together, and I would touch her cheeks and her forehead and under her eyes and her chin and throat with the tips of my fingers and say, "Smooth as piano keys." And she would stroke my chin with her finger and say, "Smooth as emery paper, and very hard on piano keys. Is it rough? No, darling, I was just making fun of you." It was lovely in the nights, and if we could only touch each other, we were happy. Besides all the big times, we had many small ways of making love, and we tried putting thoughts in the other one's head while we were in different rooms. It seemed to work sometimes, but that was probably because we were thinking the same thing anyway. We said to each other that we were married the first day she'd come to the hospital, and we counted months from our wedding day. I wanted to be really married, but Catherine said if we were, they would send her away, and if we merely started on the formalities, they would watch her and would break us up. We'd have to be married under Italian law, and the formalities were terrific. I wanted us to be married really, because I worried about having a child if I thought about it. But we pretended to ourselves we were married, and did not worry much. I suppose I enjoyed not being married, really. I know one night we talked about it, and Catherine said, "But, darling, they'd send me away." Maybe they wouldn't. They would. They'd send me home, and then we would be apart until after the war. I'd come on leave. You couldn't get to Scotland and back on leave. Besides, I won't leave you. What good would it do to marry now? We're really married. I couldn't be any more married. I only wanted to for you. There isn't any me. I'm you. Just make up a separate me. I thought girls always wanted to be married. They do. But, darling, I am married. I'm married to you. Don't I make you a good wife? You're a lovely wife. You see, darling, I had one experience of waiting to be married. I don't want to hear about it. You know I don't love anyone but you. You shouldn't mind because someone else loved me. I do. You shouldn't be jealous of someone who's dead when you have everything. No, but I don't want to hear about it. Poor darling. I know you've been with all kinds of girls, and it doesn't matter to me. Couldn't we be married privately, some way? Then if anything happened to me, or if you had a child, there's no way to be married except by church or state. We are married privately. You see, darling, it would mean everything to me if you had any religion, but I haven't any religion. You gave me the St. Anthony. That was for luck. Someone gave it to me. Then nothing worries you. Only being sent away from you. You're my religion. You're all I've got. All right. But I'll marry you the day you say. Don't talk as though you had to make an honest woman of me, darling. I'm a very honest woman. You can't be ashamed of something if you're only happy and proud of it. Aren't you happy? But you won't ever leave me for someone else? No, darling. I won't ever leave you for someone else. I suppose all sorts of dreadful things will happen to us, but you don't have to worry about that. I don't. But I love you so much. And you did love someone else before. And what happened to him? He died? Yes. And if he hadn't, I wouldn't have met you. I'm not unfaithful, darling. I've plenty of faiths, but I'm very faithful. You'll be sick of me. I'll be so faithful. I'll have to go back to the front pretty soon. We won't think about that until you go. You see, I'm happy, darling, and we have a lovely time. I haven't been happy for a long time, and when I met you, perhaps I was nearly crazy. Perhaps I was crazy. But now we're happy, and we love each other. Let's please just be happy. Let's please just be happy. You are happy, aren't you? Is there anything I do you don't like? Can I do anything to please you? Would you like me to take down my hair? Do you want to play? Yes. And come to bed. All right. I'll go and see the patients first. These two are moving very quickly. Between everything going on, you realize they've not really known each other more than a couple months. And at that, pretty much mostly in passing for the first while. But it's understandable. War rushes things along, and they're young, and presumably in love, and feelings of mortality and all that. But all the same, she's coming on a little heavy, and he's a young man. All right. Chapter 19. The summer went that way. I do not remember much about the days, except that they were hot, and that there were many victories in the papers. I was very healthy, and my legs healed quickly, so that it was not very long after I was first on crutches before I was through with them, and walking with a cane. Then I started treatments at the Ospedale Maggiore, for bending the knee, mechanical treatments, baking in a box of mirrors with violet rays, massage, and baths. I went over there afternoons, and afterwards stopped at the cafe and had a drink and read the papers. I did not roam around the town, but wanted to get home, to the hospital from the cafe. All I wanted was to see Catherine. The rest of the time I was glad to kill. Mostly I slept in the mornings, and in the afternoons sometimes I went to the races, and late to the mechanotherapy treatments. Sometimes I stopped in the Anglo-American Club and sat in a deep leather-cushioned chair in front of the window and read the magazines. They would not let us go out together when I was off crutches, because it was unseemly for a nurse to be seen unchaperoned with a patient who did not look as though he needed attendance. So we were not together much in the afternoons. Although sometimes we could go out to dinner if Ferguson went along. Miss von Kampen had accepted the status that we were great friends, because she got a great amount of work out of Catherine. She thought Catherine came from very good people, and that prejudiced her in her favor finally. Miss von Kampen admired family very much, and came from an excellent family herself. The hospital was quite busy too, and that kept her occupied. It was a hot summer, and I knew many people in Milan, but always was anxious to get back home to the hospital as soon as the afternoon was over. At the front, they were advancing on the Carso. They had taken Kuk across from Plava, and were taking the Bensizza plateau. The west front did not sound so good. It looked as though the war were going on for a long time. We were in the war now, but I thought it would take a year to get any great amount of troops over and train them for combat. Next year would be a bad year. Or a good year, maybe. The Italians were using up an awful amount of men. I did not see how it could go on, even if they took all the Bensizza and Monte San Gabriel. There were plenty of mountains beyond that for the Austrians. I had seen them. All the highest mountains were beyond. On the Carso they were going forward, but there were marshes and swamps down by the sea. Napoleon would have whipped the Austrians on the plains. He never would have fought them in the mountains. He would have let them come down and whip them around Verona. Still, nobody was whipping anyone on the Western Front. Perhaps wars weren't won anymore. Maybe they went on forever. Maybe it was another 100 Years' War. I put the paper back on the rack and left the club. I went down the steps carefully and walked up the Via Manzoni. Outside the Grand Hotel, I met old Myers and his wife getting out of a carriage. They were coming back from the races. She was a big, busted woman in black satin. He was short and old with a white moustache, and walked flat-footed with a cane. "How do you do? How do you do?" She shook hands. "Hello," said Myers. "How were the races?" "Oh, fine. They were just lovely. I had 3 winners." "How did you do?" I asked Myers. "Oh, all right. I had a winner." "I never know how he does," Mrs. Myers said. "He never tells me." "I do all right," Myers said. He was being cordial. "You ought to come out." While he talked, you had the impression that he was not looking at you, or that he mistook you for someone else. "I will," I said. "I'm coming up to the hospital to see you," Mrs. Myers said. "I have some things for my boys." "You're all my boys. You certainly are my dear boys." "They'll be glad to see you." "Those dear boys. You too. You're one of my boys." "I have to get back," I said. "You give my love to all those dear boys. I've got lots of things to bring. I've some fine marsala and cakes." "Goodbye," I said. "They'll be awfully glad to see you." Goodbye, said Myers. You come around to the Galleria. You know where my table is. We're all there every afternoon. I went on up the street. I wanted to buy something at the Cova to take to Catherine. Inside at the Cova, I bought a box of chocolate, and while the girl wrapped it up, I walked over to the bar. There were a couple of British and some aviators. I had a martini alone, paid for it, picked up the box of chocolate at the outside counter, and walked on home toward the hospital. Outside the little bar up the street from the Scala, there were some people I knew. A vice-consul, 2 fellows who studied singing, and Ettore Moretti, an Italian from San Francisco who was in the Italian army. I had a drink with them. One of the singers was named Ralph Simmons. He was singing under the name of Enrico del Credo. I never knew how well he could sing, but he was always on the point of something very big happening. He was fat and looked shop-worn around the nose and mouth, as though he had hay fever. He had come back from singing in Piacenza. He had sung in Tosca, and it had been wonderful. "Of course, you never heard me sing," he said. "When will you sing here?" "I'll be at the Scala in the fall." "I'll bet they'll throw the benches at you," Ettore said. "Did you hear that they threw the benches at him in Modena?" "It's a damn lie." "They threw the benches at him," Ettore said. "I was there. I threw 6 benches myself." "You're just a wop from Frisco." "Damn, all right, calm down. Tell me how you really feel." "He can't pronounce Italian," Ettore said. "Everywhere he goes, they throw the benches at him." "Piacenza's the toughest house to sing in north of Italy," the other tenor said. "Believe me, that's a tough little house to sing." This tenor's name was Edgar Saunders, and he sang under the name of Eduardo Giovanni. I'd like to be there to see them throw the benches at you," Ettore said. "You can't sing Italian." "He's a nut," said Edgar Saunders. "All he knows how to say is throw benches." "That's all they know how to do when you two sing," Ettore said. "Then, when you go to America, you'll tell about your triumphs at the Scala. They wouldn't let you get by the first note at the Scala." "I'll sing at the Scala," Simmons said. "I'm going to sing Tosca in October." "We'll go, won't we, Mac?" Ettore said to the vice-consul. "They'll need somebody to protect them." "Maybe the American army will be there to protect them," the vice-consul said. "Do you want another drink, Simmons?" "You want a drink, Saunders?" "All right," said Saunders. "I hear you're going to get silver medal," Ettore said to me. "What kind of citation are you going to get?" I don't know I'm going to get it." "Oh, you're going to get it. Oh, boy. The girls at the Cova will think you're fine then. They'll all think you killed 200 Austrians or captured a whole trench by yourself. Believe me, I got to work for my decorations." How many have you got, Ettore?" asked the vice-consul. "He's got everything," Simmons said. "He's the boy they're running the war for." "I've got the bronze twice and 3 silver medals," said Ettore, "but the papers on only 1 have come through." "What's the matter with the others?" asked Simmons. The action wasn't successful," said Ettore. "When the action isn't successful, they hold up all the medals." "How many times have you been wounded, Ettore?" 3 times bad. I got 3 wound stripes. See?" He pulled the sleeve around. The stripes were parallel silver lines on a black background, sewed to the cloth of the sleeve about 8 inches below the shoulder. "You got 1 too," Ettore said to me. "Believe me, they're fine to have. I'd rather have them than medals. Believe me, boy, when you get 3, you've got something. You've only got 1 for a wound. That puts you 3 months in the hospital." "Where were you wounded, Ettore?" asked the vice-consul. Ettore pulled up his sleeve. "Here." He showed the deep, smooth red scar. "Here on my leg. I can't show you that because I've got putties on. And in the foot. There's dead bone in my foot that stinks right now. Every morning I take new little pieces out and it stinks all the time." "What hit you?" asked Simmons. "A hand grenade. One of those potato mashers. It just blew the whole side of my foot off. You know those potato mashers?" He turned to me. "Sure. I saw the son of a bitch throw it," Ettore said. "It knocked me down. I thought I was dead all right, but those damn potato mashers haven't got anything in them. I shot the son of a bitch with my rifle. I always carry a rifle so they can't tell I'm an officer." "How did he look?" asked Simmons. "That was the only one he had." Tor said. I don't know why he threw it. I guess he always wanted to throw one. He never saw any real fighting, probably. I shot the son of a bitch all right. How did he look when you shot him? Simmons asked. Hell, how should I know? Said Ator. I shot him in the belly. I was afraid I'd miss him if I shot him in the head. How long have you been an officer, Ator? I asked. 2 years. I'm going to be a captain. How long have you been a lieutenant? Going on 3 years. You can't be a captain because you don't know the Italian language well enough, Ator said. You can talk, but you can't read and write well enough. You've got to have an education to be a captain. Why don't you go in the American Army? Maybe I will. I wish to God I could. Oh, boy. How much does a captain get back? I don't know exactly. Around $250, I think. Jesus Christ, what I could do with $250. You better get in the American Army quick, Fred. See if you can't get me in. All right. I can command a company in Italian. I could learn it in English easy. You'd be a general, said Simmons. No, I don't know enough to be a general. Generals got to know a hell of a lot. You guys think there ain't anything to war. You ain't got brains enough to be a second-class corporal. Thank God I don't have to be, Simmons said. Maybe you will. You will if they round up all you slackers. Oh, boy, I'd like to see you have you two in my platoon. Mac, too. I'd make you my orderly, Mac. You're a great boy, Ator, Mac said. But I'm afraid you're a militarist. I'll be a colonel before the war's over, Ator said. If they don't kill you. They won't kill me. He touched the stars on his collar with his thumb and forefinger. See me do that? We always touch our stars if anybody mentions getting killed. Let's go, Sim, said Saunders, standing up. All right. So long, I said. I have to go too. It was 5:45 by the clock inside the bar. Ciao, Ator. Ciao, Fred, said Ator. That's pretty fine. You're going to get the silver medal. I don't know I'll get it. You'll get it all right, Fred. I heard you were going to get it all right. Well, so long, I said. Keep out of trouble, Ator. Don't worry about me. I don't drink and I don't run around. I'm no boozer and whorehound. I know what's good for me. So long, I said. I'm glad you're going to get promoted to captain. To be promoted captain. I don't have to wait to be promoted. I'm going to be a captain for merit of war. 3 stars with the crossed swords and crown above. That's me. Good luck. Good luck. When are you going back to the front? Pretty soon. Well, I'll see you around. So long. So long. Don't take any bad nickels. I walked on down a back street that led me to a crosscut to the hospital. Ator was 23. He had been brought up by an uncle in San Francisco and was visiting his father and mother in Torino when the war was declared. He had a sister who had been sent to America with him at the same time to live with the uncle, who would graduate from normal school this year. He was a legitimate hero who bored everyone he met. Catherine could not stand him. We have heroes too, she said, but usually, darling, they're much quieter. I don't mind him. I wouldn't mind him if he wasn't so conceited and didn't bore me. And bore me. And bore me. He bores me. You're sweet to say so, darling. But you don't need to. You can picture him at the front and you know he's useful, but he's so much the type of boy I don't care for. I know. You're awfully sweet to know. And I try and like him, but he's a dreadful, dreadful boy, really. He said this afternoon he was going to be a captain. I'm glad, said Catherine. That should please him. Wouldn't you like me to have some more exalted rank? No, darling. I only want you to have enough rank so that we're admitted to the better restaurants. That's just the rank I have. You have a splendid rank. I don't want you to have any more rank. It might go to your head. Oh, darling, I'm awfully glad you're not conceited. I'd have married you even if you were conceited, but it's very restful to have a husband who's not conceited. We were talking softly out on the balcony. The moon was supposed to rise, but there was a mist over the town, and did not come up in a little while, and it started to drizzle. And we came in. Outside, the mist turned to rain, and in a little while it was raining hard. We heard it drumming on the roof. I got up and stood at the door to see if it was raining in, but it wasn't. So I left the door open. Who else did you see? Catherine asked. Mr. and Mrs. Myers. They're a strange lot. He's supposed to have been in the penitentiary at home. They let him out to die. And he lived happily in Milan ever after. And I don't know how happily. Happy enough after jail, I should think. She's bringing some things here. She brings splendid things. Were you her dear boy? One of them. You are all her dear boys, Catherine said. She prefers the dear boys. Listen to it rain. It's raining hard. And you'll always love me, won't you? Yes. And the rain won't make any difference? No. That's good. Because I'm afraid of the rain. Why? I was sleepy. Outside, the rain was falling steadily. I don't know, darling. I've always been afraid of the rain. I like it. I like to walk in it, but it's very hard on loving. I love you always. I love you in the rain and in the snow and in the hail and... What else is there? I don't know. I guess I'm sleepy. Go to sleep, darling, and I'll love you no matter how it is. You're not really afraid of the rain, are you? Not when I'm with you. Why are you afraid of it? I don't know. Tell me. Don't make me. Tell me. No. Tell me. All right. I'm afraid of the rain because sometimes I see me dead in it. No. And sometimes I see you dead in it. That's more likely. No, it's not, darling. Because I can keep you safe. I know I can. Nobody can help themselves. Please, stop it. I don't want you to get scotch and crazy tonight. We won't be together much longer. No, but I am scotch and crazy. But I'll stop. I'll stop it. It's all nonsense. Yes, it's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. It's only nonsense. I'm not afraid of the rain. I'm not afraid of the rain. Oh God, I wish I wasn't. She was crying. I comforted her, and she stopped crying. But outside, it kept on raining. This has big, would you love me if I was a worm energy. All right, so we're coming up on the next chapter, but we do have an ad break scheduled in about 3 minutes. So we can sit and talk for a little bit. So this whole situation is interesting. We're starting to see some more side characters coming out. Yes, it was terribly cruel of me to bring that up, but was it wrong? Come on, you had to see it. Would you love me in the rain? Would you love me in the snow, in the hail? Would you love me if I was a worm? Yes, yes. Everything is the same. Just the times and the trends change, but everything just keeps going in a cycle. But yeah, so we're starting to see some more side characters coming out, and there's all sorts of different characters all about that are in different sorts. They're taking part in the war for their own reasons, whether it be family, or they've come by to make it big, or anything really. There's so many different motivations, good, bad, or otherwise. We're still not entirely sure about the motivation for our narrator, for why he's in the war, and particularly why he's on the Italian side for the war, being an American that was just happened to be in Italy when things broke out, and he's just like, yeah, sure, I'll tag along. Oh. And then there's the soon-to-be captain who's just in it for the glory, the decorations, and talking about a foot that's half blown off, and he's picking bone pieces out of it. That's very World War I coded right there. I rather enjoyed that he's convalescing out of the hospital after a operation on his knee, and he's wandering around town on a cane, shopping in at, grabbing a drink here, going to pick up a gift there, and while he's there, it's like, oh, I'll just have a martini with the boys. Getting very Mad Money sort of elements there. Which I guess is about timely. World War I is around the time of the Roaring Twenties and such, so it's the same sort of people. All right. So, let's go ahead and take a short break. We'll fire off this ad, and then we'll be back in just a few minutes. Take the opportunity to stretch your legs, top up your drinks, and make sure that everything is going well about the house. We'll be back in just a little bit to continue with Chapter 20. All right, we are back. All right, so we're starting to see things settling into a rhythm of normalcy, of comfort in the hospital away from the front. But how long is this going to last? He's on the mend. They're going to send him back at some point. Will his nurse follow him to the front again? We'll have to find out. So, let's resume with Chapter 20. We're making some solid progress through this tonight. Well, in general, we're about just south of 40%. Yeah, I'm sure there will be some conflict and shifts of temperament coming soon. All right, Chapter 20. One day in the afternoon, we went to the races. Ferguson went too, and Crowell Rogers, the boy who had been wounded in the eyes by the explosion of the shell nosecap. The girls dressed to go after lunch, while Crowell and I sat on the bed in his room, and read the past performances of the horses and the predictions in the racing paper. Crowell's head was bandaged, and he did not care much about these races, but read the racing paper constantly, and kept track of all the horses for something to do. He said the horses were a terrible lot, but they were all the horses we had. Old Myers liked him and gave him tips. Myers won on nearly every race, but disliked to give tips because it brought down the prices. The racing was very crooked. Men who had been ruled off the turf everywhere else were racing in Italy. Myers' information was good, but I hated to ask him because sometimes he did not answer. And always, you can see it hurt him to tell you. But he felt obligated to tell us for some reason, and he hated less to tell Crowell. Crowell's eyes had been hurt. One was hurt badly, and Myers had trouble with his eyes, and so he liked Crowell. Myers never told his wife what horses he was playing, and she won or lost, mostly lost, and talked all the time. We four drove out to San Siro in an open carriage. It was a lovely day, and we drove out through the park and out along the tramway and out of town, where the road was dusty. There were villas with iron fences and big overgrown gardens and ditches with water flowing and green vegetable gardens with dust on the leaves. We could look across the plain and see farmhouses and the rich green farms with their irrigation ditches and the mountains to the north. There were many carriages going into the racetrack, and the men at the gate let us in without cards because we were in uniform. We left the carriage, bought programs, and walked across the infield, and then across the smooth, thick turf of the course to the paddock. The grandstands were old and made of wood, and the betting booths were under the stands and in a row out near the stables. There was a crowd of soldiers along the fence in the infield. The paddock was fairly well filled with people, and they were walking the horses around in a ring under the trees behind the grandstand. We saw people we knew and got chairs for Ferguson and Catherine and watched the horses. They went around, one after the other, their heads high, the grooms leading them. One horse, a purplish black, Crowell swore was dyed that color. We watched him, and it seemed possible. He had only come out just before the bell rang to saddle. We looked him up in the program from the number on the groom's arm, and it was listed a black gelding named Japalac. The race was for horses that had never won a race worth 1,000 lire or more. Catherine was sure his color had been changed. Ferguson said she could not tell. I thought he looked suspicious. We all agreed we ought to back him, and pooled 100 lire. The odd sheets showed he would pay 35 to 1. Crowell went over and bought the tickets while we watched the jockeys ride around once more, and then go out under the trees to the track and gallop slowly up to the turn where the start was to be. We went up in the grandstand to watch the race. They had no elastic barrier at San Siro then, and the starter line lined up all the horses. They looked very small way up to the track, and then sent them off with a crack of his long whip. They came past us with the black horse well in front, and on the turn he was running away from the others. I watched them on the far side of the glasses and saw the jockey fighting to hold him in, but he could not hold him. And when they came around the turn and into the stretch, the black horse was 15 lengths ahead of the others. He went way on up and around the turn after the finish. "Isn't it wonderful?" Catherine said. "We'll have over 3,000 lire. He must be a splendid horse." "I hope his color doesn't run," Crowell said, "before they pay off." "He really was a lovely horse," Catherine said. "I wonder if Mr. Myers backed him." "Did you have the winner?" I called to Myers. He nodded. "I didn't," Mrs. Myers said. Who did you children bet on?" "Japalack." "Really? He's 35-1. We liked his color." "I didn't. I thought he looked seedy. They told me not to back him." "He won't pay much," Myers said. "He's marked 35-1 in the quotes," I said. "He won't pay much. At the last minute." Myers said they put a lot of money on him. "Who?" "Kempton and the boys. You'll see. He won't pay 2-1. "Then we won't get 3,000 lyre," Catherine said. "I don't like this crooked racing." "We'll get 200 lyre." "That's nothing. That doesn't do us any good. I thought we were going to get 3,000. "It's crooked and disgusting," Ferguson said. "Of course," said Catherine. "If it hadn't been crooked, we'd never have backed him at all. But I would have liked the 3,000 lyre." "Let's get down and get a drink and see what they pay," Crowell said. We went out to where they posted the numbers, and the bell rang to pay off, and they put up 1850 after Japalack to win. That meant he paid less. He paid less than even money on a 10 lira bet. Yuck. We went back to the bar under the grandstand and had a whiskey and soda apiece. We ran into a couple of Italians we knew, and McAdams, the vice-consul, and they came up with us when we joined the girls. The Italians were full of manners, and McAdams talked to Catherine while we went down to bed again. Mr. Myers was standing near the parimutuel. "Ask him what he played," I said to Crowell. "What are you up on, Mr. Myers?" Crowell said. Myers took out his program and pointed to the number 5 with his pencil. "Do you mind if we play him too?" Go ahead. Don't tell my wife I gave it to you." "Will you have a drink?" I asked. "No, thanks. I never drink." We put 100 lyre on number 5 to win, and 100 to place, and then had another whiskey and soda apiece. I was feeling very good, and we picked up a couple more Italians, who each had a drink with us, and went back to the girls. These Italians were also very mannered, and matched manners with the 2 we had collected before. In a little while, no one could sit down. I gave the tickets to Catherine. "What horse is it?" "I don't know. Mr. Myers' choice." "Don't you even know the name?" "No. You can find it in the program. Number 5, I think." "You have touching faith," she said. "The number 5 won, but did not pay anything. Mr. Myers was angry." "You have to put up 200 lyre to make 20, he said. 12 lyre for 10. It's not worth it. My wife lost 20 lyre. "I'll go down with you," Catherine said to me. The Italians all stood up. We went downstairs and out to the paddock. "Do you like this?" Catherine asked. "Yes, I guess I do." "It's all right, I suppose," she said. "But, darling, I can't stand to see so many people." We don't see many." "No, but those Myers, and the man from the bank, and with his wife and daughters." "He cashes my sight drafts," I said. "Yes, but someone else would if he didn't. Those last 4 boys were awful." "We can stay out here and watch the race from the fence." "That will be lovely. And, darling, let's back a horse we've never heard of, and that Mr. Myers won't be backing." "All right." We backed a horse named Light for Me, that finished 4th in a field of 5. We leaned on the fence and watched the horses go by, their hooves thudding as they went past, and saw the mountains off in the distance and Milan beyond the trees and the fields. "I feel so much cleaner," Catherine said. The horses were coming back through the gate, wet and sweating, the jockeys quieting them and riding up to dismount under the trees. "Wouldn't you like a drink?" "We could have one out here and see the horses." "I'll get them," I said. "The boy will bring them," Catherine said. She put her hand up, and the boy came out from the pagoda bar beside the stables. We sat down at a round iron table. "Don't you like it better when we're alone?" "Yes," I said. "I felt very lonely when they were all there." "It's grand here," I said. Yes, it's really a pretty course. It's nice. Don't let me spoil your fun, darling. I'll go back whenever you want. No, I said. We'll stay here and have our drink. And then we'll go down and stand at the water jump for the steeplechase. You're awfully good to me, she said. After we'd been alone a while, we were glad to see the others again. We had a good time. Yeah, the odds on those races were not very friendly. To call them crooked is probably not too far off. Seriously, getting a 1.2 to 1 on a race is kind of yeesh. Yeesh. And I get that the odds change as you go, but it really should lock in when you put in your ticket. All seems very cooked to me. Hang on. All right, so a bit of a nosebleed going on here, but I've got it stopped up, and we'll see how the tracking agrees with a tissue hanging out off of my face. So far, it doesn't seem to like it very much at all. But it is that time of year. The flowers are blooming, the pollen is out, and we're all suffering. Alright, yes, hello Zoe. You're on top of the computer? Yes. Alright, so let's continue now. We've got chapter 21 ahead of us. In September, the first cool nights came. And then, the days were cool, and the leaves on the trees in the park began to turn color, and we knew the summer was gone. The fighting at the front went very badly, and they could not take San Gabriel. The fighting on the Bemtsita Plateau was over, and by the middle of the month, the fighting for San Gabriel was over too. They could not take it. Etor was gone back to the front. The horses were gone to Rome, and there was no more racing. Crowell had gone to Rome too. To be sent back to America, there were riots twice in town against the war, and bad rioting in Turin. A British major at the club told me the Italians had lost 150,000 men on the Bemtsita Plateau and on San Gabriel. He said they had lost 40,000 on the Carso besides. That's a lot, wow. We had a drink, and he talked. He said the fighting was over for the year down here, and that the Italians had bitten off more than they could chew. He said the offensive in Flanders was going to the bad. If they killed men as they did this fall, the Allies would be cooked in another year. He said we were all cooked. But we were all right, as long as we did not know it. We were all cooked. Good to know that has come back into vernacular. Cooked. It's a nice turn of phrase. It's rather more on the young side now, but old terms just cycle back into reuse. That or Hemingway was just way ahead of his time. The thing was not to recognize it. The last country to realize they were cooked would win the war. We had another drink. Was I on somebody's staff? No, he was. It was all balls. We were alone in the club, sitting back in one of the big leather sofas. His boots were smoothly polished under polished dull leather. They were beautiful boots. He said it was all balls. They thought only in divisions and manpower. They all squabbled about divisions and only killed them when they got them. They were all cooked. The Germans won the victories. By God, they were soldiers. The old Hun was a soldier, but they were cooked too. They were all cooked. I asked about Russia. He said they were cooked already. I'd soon see they were cooked. Then the Austrians were cooked too. If they got some Hun divisions, they could do it. Do you think they would attack this fall? Of course they would. The Italians were cooked. Everybody knew they were cooked. The old Hun would come down through the Trentino and cut the railway at Vicenza, and then where would the Italians be? They tried that in 16, I said. Not with Germans. Yes, I said, but they probably wouldn't do that, he said. It was too simple. They try something complicated and get royally cooked. I had to go, I said. I had to get back to the hospital. Goodbye, he said, dead cheerily. Every sort of luck. There was a great contrast between his word pessimism and personal cheeriness. I stopped at a barber shop and was shaved and went home to the hospital. My leg was as well as it would get for a long time. I had been up for examination 3 days before. There were still some treatments to take before my course at the Ospedale Maggiore was finished, and I was... Sorry. And I walked along Stride Street practicing not limping. An old man was cutting silhouettes under an arcade. I stopped to watch him. 2 girls were posing, and he got their silhouettes together, snipping very fast and looking at them, his head on one side. The girls were giggling. He showed me the silhouettes before he pasted them on white paper and handed them back to the girls. They're beautiful, he said. How about you, Tenente? The girls went away looking at their silhouettes and laughing. They were nice-looking girls. One of them worked in the wine shop across from the hospital. All right, I said. Take your cap off. No, with it on. It will not be so beautiful, the old man said. But, he brightened, it will be more military. He snipped away at the black paper, then separated the 2 thicknesses and pasted the profiles on a card and handed them to me. How much? That's all right. He waved his hand. I just made them for you. Please, I brought out some coppers for pleasure. No, I did them for a pleasure. Give them to your girl. Many thanks, until we meet. Until I see thee. I went on to the hospital. There were some letters, an official one, and some others. I was to have 3 weeks convalescent leave and then return to the front. I read it over carefully. Well, that was that. The convalescent leave started on October 4th, when my course was finished. 3 weeks was 21 days. That made October 25th. I told them I would not be in and went to the restaurant a little way up the street from the hospital for supper, and read my letters in the Corriere della Sera on the table. There was a letter from my grandfather, containing family news, patriotic encouragement, a draft for $200, and a few clippings. A dull letter from the priest at our mess, a letter from a man who knew I was flying with the French, and had gotten in with a man I knew who was flying with the French. Jeez, mixed up words. And had gotten in with a wild gang and was telling about it. And a note from Rinaldi, asking me how long I was going to skulk in Milano, and what was all the news. He wanted me to bring him a phonograph records, and enclose a list. I drank a small bottle of Chianti with the meal, had a coffee afterward with a glass of cognac, finished the paper, put my letters in the pocket, left the paper on the table with the tip, and went out. In my room at the hospital, I undressed, put on pajamas and a dressing gown, pulled down the curtains on the door that opened onto the balcony, and, sitting up in bed, read Boston papers from a pile Mrs. Myers had left for her boys at the hospital. The Chicago White Sox were winning the American League pennant, and the New York Giants were leading the National League. Babe Ruth was a pitcher, then playing for Boston. The papers were dull. The news was local and stale. The war news was all old. The American news was all training camps. I was glad I wasn't in a training camp. The baseball news was all I could read, and I did not have the slightest interest in it. A number of papers together made it impossible to read with interest. It was not very timely, but I read at it for a while. I wondered if America really got into the war. If they would close down the major leagues. They probably wouldn't. We're still racing in Milan, and the war could not be much worse. They had stopped racing in France. That was where our horse Chapelac came from. Catherine was not due on duty until 9 o'clock. I heard her passing along the floor when she first came on duty, and once saw her pass in the hall. She went to several other rooms, and finally came into mine. "I'm late, darling," she said. "There was a lot to do. How are you?" I told her about my papers and the leave. "That's lovely," she said. "Where do you want to go?" "Nowhere. I want to stay here." "That's silly. You pick a place to go, and I'll come too." "How will you work it?" I don't know, but I will." "You're pretty wonderful." "No, I'm not. But life isn't hard to manage when you've nothing to lose." "How do you mean?" "Nothing. I was only thinking how small obstacles seemed, that once were so big." "I should think it might be hard to manage." "No, it won't, darling. If necessary, I'll simply leave. But it won't come to that." "Where should we go?" "I don't care. Anywhere you want. Anywhere we don't know people." "Don't you care where we go?" "No. I'll like any place." She seemed upset and taut. "What's the matter, Catherine?" "Nothing. Nothing's the matter." "Yes, there is." "No, nothing. Really nothing." "I know there is. Tell me, darling. You can tell me. It's nothing. Tell me." "I don't want to. I'm afraid I'll make you unhappy or worry you." "No, it won't." "You're sure?" It doesn't worry me, but I'm afraid to worry you." "It won't if it doesn't worry you." "I don't want to tell." "Tell it." "Do I have to?" "Yes." I'm going to have a baby, darling. It's almost 3 months along. You're not worried, are you? Please, please don't. You mustn't worry." "All right." "Is it all right?" "Of course." I did everything. I took everything, but it didn't make any difference." "I'm not worried." "I couldn't help it, darling. And I haven't worried about it. You mustn't worry or feel badly. I only worry about you." "That's it. That's what you mustn't do. People have babies all the time. Everybody has babies. It's a natural thing." "You're pretty wonderful." "No, I'm not. But you mustn't mind, darling. I'll try and not make trouble for you. I know I've made trouble now, but haven't I been a good girl until now? You never knew it, did you?" "No." It will all be like that. You simply mustn't worry. I can see you worrying. Stop it. Stop it right away. Wouldn't you like a drink, darling? I know a drink always makes you feel cheerful." "No, I feel cheerful. And you're pretty wonderful." "No, I'm not. But I'll fix everything to be together. If you pick out a place for us to go, it ought to be lovely in October. We'll have a lovely time, darling, and I'll write to you every day while you're at the front." "Where will you be?" I don't know yet. But somewhere splendid. I'll look after all that." We were quiet a while, and did not talk. Catherine was sitting on the bed, and I was looking at her. But we did not touch each other. We were apart, as when someone comes into a room and people are self-conscious. She put out her hand and took mine. You aren't angry, are you, darling?" "No." "And you don't feel trapped?" "Maybe a little, but not by you." I didn't mean by me. You mustn't be stupid. I meant trapped at all." "You always feel trapped biologically." She went away a long way without stirring or removing her hand. "Always isn't a pretty word." "I'm sorry." "It's all right. But you see, I've never had a baby, and I've never even loved anyone, and I've tried to be the way you wanted, and then you talk about always." "I could cut off my tongue," I offered. "Oh, darling." She came back from wherever she had been. "You mustn't mind me." We were both together again, and the self-consciousness was gone. We really are the same one. and we mustn't understand on purpose. Misunderstand. We won't. But people do. They love each other and they misunderstand on purpose and they fight, and then suddenly they aren't the same one. We won't fight. We mustn't. Because there's only us two, and in the world there's all the rest of them. If anything comes between us, we're gone. And then they have us. They won't get us, I said, because you're too brave. Nothing ever happens to the brave. They die, of course, but only once. No. Who said that? The coward dies 1,000 deaths, but the brave one? Of course. Who said it? I don't know. He was probably a coward, he said. He knew a great deal about cowards, but nothing about the brave. The brave dies perhaps 2,000 deaths if he's intelligent. He simply doesn't mention them. Oh, I don't know. It's hard to see the inside of the head of the brave. Yes, that's how they keep that way. You're an authority. You're right, darling. That was deserved. You're brave. No, she said, but I would like to be. I'm not, I said. I know where I stand. I've been out long enough to know I'm like a ball player that bats 230 and knows he's no better. What is a ball player that bats 230? It's awfully impressive. It's not. It means a mediocre hitter in baseball. But still a hitter, she prodded me. I guess we're both conceited, I said. But you are brave. No, but I hope to be. We're both brave, I said. And I'm very brave when I've had a drink. Liquid courage will do that. We're splendid people, Catherine said. She went over to the armoire and brought me the cognac and a glass. Have a drink, darling, she said. You've been awfully good. I don't really want one. Take one. All right. I poured the water glass, a third full of cognac, and drank it off. It was very big, she said. I know brandy is for heroes, but you shouldn't exaggerate. Where will we live after the war? In an old people's home, probably, she said. For 3 years, I looked forward very childishly to the war ending at Christmas. But now I look forward till when our son will be a lieutenant commander. Maybe he'll be a general. If it's 100 years' war, he'll have time to try both of the services. Don't you want a drink? Brother, I know times change, but... No. It always makes you happy, darling, and it only makes me dizzy. Didn't you ever drink brandy? No, darling. I'm a very old-fashioned wife. I reached down to the floor for the bottle and poured another drink. I'd better go have a look at your compatriots, Catherine said. Perhaps you'll read the papers until I come back. Do you have to go? Now or later? All right, now. I'll come back later. I'll have finished the papers, I said. All right, that brings us to the end of chapter 21. And so, we've seen the introduction of the, presumably, major conflict of this book. The stresses and different pulls on one's priorities. As now, our narrator is, presumably, going to be a father. Assuming he doesn't get his significant other particularly drunk. But she seems at least to be responsible about it. But we'll see how this continues to develop. This is very human and raw drama that is brewing. There's not really much that is more real than the advent of an unexpected but unsurprising pregnancy. Particularly in the midst of a war. We'll see how long she can manage to hide things. Because I'm sure as soon as she starts showing, there will be questions to which everyone already knows the answers. And remember at the time, to be to have children outside of wedlock in the early 1900s was a very different sort of affair. All right, chapter 22. It turned cold that night, and the next day it was raining. Coming home from the Obsedale Maggiore, it rained very hard, and I was wet when I came in. That is true. People do look the other way a bit. But we do remember that early on, they were already making snide remarks about those nurses who would get with child at the front. So the providing a different sort of comfort than most nurses are expected to. So yes, people look the other way, but they're still not well looked at. Up in my room, the rain was coming down heavily outside on the balcony, and the wind blew it against the glass doors. I changed my clothing and drank some brandy, but the brandy did not taste good. It rarely does. I felt sick in the night, and in the morning after breakfast I was nauseated. "There is no doubt about it," the house surgeon said. "Look at the whites of his eyes, miss." Miss Gage looked. They had me look in a glass. The whites of the eyes were yellow, and it was the jaundice. I was sick for 2 weeks with it, and for that reason we did not spend a convalescent leave together. We had planned to go to Pallanza on Lago Maggiore. It is nice there in the fall when the leaves turn. There are walks you can take, and you can troll for trout in the lake. It would have been better than Stresa, because there are fewer people at Pallanza. Stresa is so easy to get to from Milan. There are always people you know. There's a nice village at Pallanza, and you can row out to the islands where the fishermen live, and there's a restaurant on the biggest island. But we did not go. One day, while I was in bed with jaundice, Miss Van Kampen came in my room, opened the door into the armoire, and saw the empty bottles there. I had sent a load of them down by the porter, and I believe she must have seen them going out and come up to find some more. They were mostly vermouth bottles, Marsala bottles, Capri bottles, empty Chianti flasks, and a few cognac bottles. Damn, brother. The porter had carried out the large bottles, those that had held vermouth and the straw-covered Chianti flasks, and left the brandy bottles for the last. It was the brandy bottles and a bottle shaped like a bear, which had held the Kummel, that Miss Van Kampen found. The bear-shaped bottle enraged her particularly. She held it up. The bear was sitting up on its haunches with his paws up. There was a cork in his glass. A glass head and a few sticky crystals at the bottom. I laughed. Yeah, exactly. "It was Kummel," I said. "The best Kummel comes in those bear-shaped bottles. It comes from Russia." "Those are all brandy bottles, aren't they?" Miss Van Kampen asked. "I can't see them all," I said. "Well, yeah, because you're blind drunk. But they probably are." "How long has this been going on?" "I bought them and brought them in myself," I said. "I have had Italian officers visit me frequently, and I have kept brandy to offer them." "You haven't been drinking it yourself?" she said. "I have also drunk it myself." "Brandy," she said. 11 empty bottles of brandy and that bear liquid. Kummel. I will send someone to take them away. Those are all the empty bottles you have?" "For the moment. And I was pitying you having jaundice. Pity is something that is wasted on you." "Thank you. I suppose you can't be blamed for not wanting to go back to the front, but I should think you would try something more intelligent than producing jaundice with alcoholism." With what?" "With alcoholism. You heard me say it." I did not say anything. "Unless you find something else, I am afraid you will have to go back to the front when you are through with your jaundice. I don't believe self-inflicted jaundice entitles you to a convalescent leave." "You don't?" "I do not." Have you ever had jaundice, Miss Van Kampen? No, but I've seen a great deal of it. You noticed how the patients enjoyed it? I suppose it is better than the front. Miss Van Kampen, I said, did you ever know a man who tried to disable himself by kicking himself in the scrotum? That was unexpected. Miss Van Kampen ignored the actual question. She had to ignore it or leave the room. She was not ready to leave because she had disliked me for a long time, and she was now cashing in. I have known many men to escape the front through self-inflicted wounds. That wasn't the question. I have seen self-inflicted wounds also. I asked you if you had ever known a man who had tried to disable himself by kicking himself in the scrotum, because that is the nearest sensation to jaundice, and it is a sensation that I believe few women have ever experienced. That is why I asked you if you had ever had the jaundice, Miss Van Kampen, because... Miss Van Kampen left the room. Later, Miss Gage came in. What did you say to Miss Van Kampen? She was furious. We were comparing sensations. I was going to suggest that she had never experienced childbirth. You're a fool, Kate said. She's after your scalp. She has my scalp, I said. She's lost me my leave, and she might try to get me court-martialed. She's mean enough. She never liked you, Kate said. What's it about? She says I've drunk myself into jaundice, so as not to go back to the front. Pooh, said Gage. I'll swear you've never taken a drink. Everybody will swear you've never taken a drink. She, found the bottles. I've told you 100 times to clear out those bottles. Where are they now? In the armoire. Have you a suitcase? No. Put them in that rucksack. Miss Gage packed the bottles in the rucksack. I'll give them to the porter, she said. She started for the door. Just a minute. Just a minute, Mrs. Van Kampen said. I'll take those bottles. She had the porter with her. Carry them, please, she said. I want to show them to the doctor when I make my report. She went down the hall. The porter carried the sack. He knew what was in it. Nothing happened except that I lost my leave. Well, no shit, Sherlock. I know you don't want to go back to the front, and I know you just had it sprung on you that you're going to be a father, but come on. Come on. I'm with Miss Von Kampen on this one. Like, I'm one to enjoy a drink, certainly, as evidenced by what we're drinking tonight, but come on. Chapter 23. The night I was to return to the front, I sent the porter down to hold a seat for me on the train when it came up from Turin. The train was to leave at midnight. It was made up at Turin and reached Milan about 10:30 at night, and lay in the station until time to leave. You had to be there when it came in to get a seat. The porter took a friend with him, a machine gunner on leave who worked in a tailor shop, and was sure that between them they could hold a space. I gave them money for platform tickets and had them take my baggage. There was a big rucksack and 2 musettes. I said goodbye at the hospital at about 5 o'clock and went out. The porter had my baggage in his lodge, and I told him I would be at the station a little before midnight. His wife called me Signorino, and cried. She wiped her eyes and shook my hands and then cried again. I patted her on the back, and she cried once more. She had done my mending and was a very short, dumpy, happy... Sorry, hold on. That caught me by surprise. She had done my mending and was a very short, dumpy, happy-faced woman with white hair. When she cried, her whole face went to pieces. I went down to the corner where there was a wine shop and waited inside, looking out the window. It was dark outside, and cold and misty. I paid for my coffee and grappa, and I watched the people going by in the light from the window. You know what? Dumpy is, like, it's one of those words, in context, like, there's nothing wrong with it, but, like, it's one of the more interesting ways to say someone is kind of an uggo. But, it just threw me off. It just threw me off. I saw Catherine and knocked on the window. She looked, saw me and smiled, and I went out to meet her. She was wearing a dark blue cape and soft felt hat. We walked along together, along the sidewalk past the wine shops, then across the market square and up the street, and through the archway to the cathedral square. There were streetcar tracks, and beyond them was the cathedral. It was white and wet in the mist. We crossed the tram tracks. On our left were the shops, their windows lighted and the entrance to the Galleria. There was a fog in the square, and when we came close to the front of the cathedral, it was very big and the stone was wet. Would you like to go in? No, Catherine said. We walked along. There was a soldier standing with his girl in the shadow of one of the stone buttresses ahead of us, and we passed them. They were standing tight up against the stone, and he had his cape. He had put his cape around her. They're like us, I said. Nobody is like us, Catherine said. She did not mean it happily. I wish they had some place to go. It mightn't do them any good. I don't know. Everybody ought to have some place to go. They have the cathedral, Catherine said. We were past it now. We crossed the far end of the square and looked back at the cathedral. It was fine in the mist. We were standing in front of the leather goods shop. There were riding boots, a rucksack, and ski boots in the window. Each article was set apart as an exhibit. The rucksack in the center, the riding boots on one side, and the ski boots on the other. The leather was dark and oiled and smooth as a used saddle. The electric light made highlights on the dull oiled leather. We'll ski sometime. In 2 months, we will be skiing at Muren, Catherine said. Let's go there. All right, she said. We went on past other windows and turned down a side street. I've never been this way. This is the way I go to the hospital, I said. It was a narrow street, and we kept on the right-hand side. There were many people passing in the fog. There were shops, and all the windows were lighted. We looked in a window at a pile of cheeses. I stopped in front of an armorer's shop. Come in a minute. I have to buy a gun. What sort of gun? A pistol. Wait, he has to buy his own pistol. We went in, and I unbuttoned my belt and laid it on the empty holster on the counter. 2 women were behind the counter. The women brought out several pistols. It must fit this, I said, opening the holster. It was a grey leather holster, and I had bought it second-hand to wear in the town. Have they good pistols? Catherine asked. They're all about the same. Can I try this one? I asked the woman. I have no place now to shoot, she said, but it is very good. You will not make a mistake with it. That is true. That is true. I snapped it and pulled back the action. The spring was rather strong, but it worked smoothly. I sighted it and snapped it again. It is used, the woman said. It belonged to an officer who was an excellent shot. Did you sell it to him? Yes. How did you get it back? From his orderly. Maybe you have mine, I said. How much is this? 50 lire. It is very cheap. All right. I want 2 extra clips and a box of cartridges. She brought them from under the counter. Have you any need for a sword? She asked. I have some used swords, very cheap. I'm going to the front, said, "Oh, yes, then you won't need a sword," she said. I paid for the cartridges and the pistol, filled the magazine and put it in place, put the pistol in my empty holster, filled the extra clips of the cartridges and put them in the leather slots on the holster, and then buckled on my belt. The pistol felt heavy on the belt. Still, I thought it was better to have a regulation pistol. You could always get shells. "Now we're fully armed," I said. That was the one thing I had to remember to do. Someone got my other one going to the hospital. "I hope it's a good pistol," Catherine said. "Was there anything else?" the woman asked. "I don't believe so." "The pistol has a lanyard," she said. "So I noticed." The woman wanted to sell something else. "You don't need a whistle?" "I don't believe so." The woman said goodbye, and we went out onto the sidewalk. Catherine looked in the window. The woman looked out and bowed to us. "What are those little mirrors set in the wood for?" "They're for attracting birds. They twirl them out in the field, and the larks see them and come out, and the Italians shoot them." "They are an ingenious people. You don't shoot larks, do you, darling, in America?" "Not especially." We crossed the street and started to walk up the other side. "I feel better now," Catherine said. "I felt terrible when we started." We always feel good when we're together. "We will always be together." "Yes, except that I'm going away at midnight." "Don't think about it, darling." We walked up the street. The fog made the lights yellow. "Aren't you tired?" Catherine asked. "How about you?" "I'm all right. It's fun to walk." "But let's not do it too long." "No." We turned down a side street when there were no lights and walked in the street. I stopped and kissed Catherine. While I kissed her, I felt her hand on my shoulder. She had pulled my cape around her so it covered both of us. We were standing in the street against a high wall. "Let's go someplace," I said. "Good," said Catherine. We walked on along the street until it came out onto a wider street. It was beside a canal. On the other side was a brick wall and buildings. Ahead, down the street, I saw a streetcar across a bridge. "We can get a cab up the bridge," I said. We stood on the bridge in the fog, waiting for a carriage. Several streetcars passed, full of people going home. Then a carriage came along, but there was someone in it. The fog was turning to rain. "We could walk or take a tram," Catherine said. "One will be along," I said. "They go by here." "Here one comes," she said. The driver stopped his horse and lowered the metal sign on his meter. The top of the carriage was up, and there were drops of water on the driver's coat. His varnished hat was shining in the wet. We sat back in the seat together, and the top of the carriage made it dark. "Where did gentlemen go?" "To the station. There's a hotel across from the station where we can go." "We can go the way we are, without luggage?" "Yes," I said. It was a long ride to the station, up side streets in the rain. "Won't we have dinner?" Catherine asked. "I'm afraid I'll be hungry." "We'll have it in our room." I haven't anything to wear. I haven't even a nightgown." "We'll get one," I said, and called to the driver. "Go to the Via Manzoni, and up that." He nodded and turned off to the left at the next corner. On the big street, Catherine watched for a shop. "Here's a place," she said. I stopped the driver, and Catherine got out, walked across the sidewalk, and went inside. I sat back in the carriage and waited for her. It was raining, and I could smell the wet street and the horse steaming in the rain. She came back with a package and got in, and we drove on. "It was very extravagant, darling," she said, "but it's a fine nightgown." At the hotel, I asked Catherine to wait in the carriage while I went in and spoke to the manager. There were plenty of rooms. Then I went out to the carriage, paid the driver, and Catherine and I walked in together. The small boy in buttons carried in the package. The manager bowed us toward the elevator. There was much red plush and brass. The manager went up in the elevator with us. Monsieur and Madame wish dinner in their room? Yes. Will you have the menu brought up? I said. You wish something special for dinner? Some game or a souffle? The elevator passed 3 floors with a click each time, then clicked and stopped. What have you as game? I could get a pheasant or a woodcock. A woodcock, I said, and walked down the corridor. The carpet was worn. There were many doors. The manager stopped and unlocked the door and opened it. Here you are. A lovely room. The small boy in buttons put the package on the table in the center of the room. The manager opened the curtains. It is foggy outside, he said. The room was furnished in red plush. There were many mirrors, 2 chairs, and a large bed with a satin coverlet. A door led to the bathroom. I will send up the menu, the manager said. He bowed and went out. I went to the window and looked out, then pulled a cord that shut the thick plush curtains. Catherine was sitting on the bed, looking at the cut glass chandelier. She had taken her hat off, and her hair shone under the light. She saw herself in one of the mirrors and put her hands to her hair. I saw her in 3 other mirrors. She did not look happy. She let her cape fall on the bed. What's the matter, darling? I never felt like a whore before, she said. I went over to the window and pulled the curtain aside and looked out. I had not thought it would be like this. You're not a whore. I know it, darling, but it isn't nice to feel like one. Her voice was dry and flat. This was the best hotel we could get in, I said. I looked out the window, across the square were the lights of the station. There were carriages going by on the street, and I saw the trees in the dark. The lights from the hotel shone on the wet pavement. Oh, hell, I thought. Do we have to argue now? Come over here, please, Catherine said. The flatness was all gone out of her voice. Come over, please. I'm a good girl again. I looked over at the bed. She was smiling. I went over and sat on the bed beside her and kissed her. You're my good girl. I'm certainly yours, she said. After we had eaten, we felt fine. And then, after, we felt very happy, and in a little time the room felt like our own home. My room at the hospital had been our own home, and this room was our home too, in the same way. Catherine wore my tunic over her shoulders while we ate. We were very hungry, and the meal was good, and we drank a bottle of Capri and a bottle of Saint Estèphe. I drank most of it, but Catherine drank some, and it made her feel splendid. For dinner, we had a woodcock with soufflé potatoes and purée de marron, a salad, and a zabaione for dessert. It's a fine room, Catherine said. It's a lovely room. We should have stayed here all the time. We've been in Milan. It's a funny room, but it's nice. Vice is a wonderful thing, Catherine said. The people who go in for it seem to have good taste about it. The red plush is really fine. It's just the thing, and the mirrors are very attractive. You're a lovely girl. I don't know how a room like this would be for waking up in the morning, but it's really a splendid room. I poured another glass of Saint Estèphe. I wish we could do something really sinful, Catherine said. Everything we do seems so innocent and simple. I can't believe we do anything wrong. You're a grand girl. I only felt hungry. I get terribly hungry. You're a fine, simple girl, I said. I am a simple girl. No one ever understood it except you. Once, when I first met you, I spent an afternoon thinking how we would get to the Hotel Cavour together, and how it would be. That was awfully cheeky of you. This isn't the Cavour, is it? No, they wouldn't have taken us in there. They'll take us in sometime. But that's how we differ, darling. I never thought about anything. Didn't you ever at all? A little, she said. Oh, you're a lovely girl. I poured another glass of wine. I'm a very simple girl, Catherine said. I didn't think so at first. I thought you were a crazy girl. I was a little crazy, But I wasn't crazy in any complicated manner. I didn't confuse you, did I, darling? Wine is a grand thing, I said. It makes you forget all the bad. It's lovely, said Catherine, but it's given my father gout very badly. Have you a father? No shit, Sherlock. Yes, said Catherine, he has gout. You won't ever have to meet him. Haven't you a father? No, I said, a stepfather. Will I like him? You won't have to meet him. We have such a fine time, Catherine said. I don't take any interest in anything else anymore. I'm so very happy to marry you. I'm married to you. The waiter came and took away the things. After a while, we were very still, and we could hear the rain. Down below, on the street, a motor car honked. Well, that's an interesting break. But at my back, I always hear Time's wicked chariot hurrying near. Oh, all right, we've got an ad coming on now. We've got pretty much everybody's got subscriptions, but I do still want to go through the motions. So we'll get through one ad. I'll finish up this chapter when we get back, because this feels like an interesting break, and then we'll find someone to raid. So, be back in just a couple minutes. All right, we are back. So we've just got about another page or so in this section. We're a little over time, but I do want to finish this chapter. And there's a few people that look like we'll be able to raid into, so we should be good for a nice transition to the end of the evening. So, let's finish up as the little rendezvous, the last rendezvous between our narrator and Catherine wraps up, because he's about to be shipped back to the front, presumably. I know that poem, Catherine said. It's by Marvell, but it's about a girl who wouldn't live with a man. My head felt very clear and cold, and I wanted to talk facts. Where will you have the baby? I don't know. The best place I can find. How will you arrange it? The best way I can. Don't worry, darling. We may have several babies before the war is over. It's nearly time to go. I know. I can make it time if you want. No. Then don't worry, darling. You were fine until now, and now you're worrying. I won't. How often will you write? Every day. Do they read your letters? They can't read English enough to hurt any. I'll make them very confusing, Catherine said. But not too confusing. I'll just make them a little confusing. I'm afraid we have to start to go. All right, darling. I hate to leave our fine house. So do I. But we have to go. All right. But we're never settled in our home very long. We will be. I'll have a fine home for you when you come back. Maybe I'll be back right away. Perhaps you'll be hurt just a little in the foot. Or the lobe of the ear. No, I want your ears the way they are. And not my feet. Your feet have been hit already. We have to go, darling. Really. All right. You go first. All right, that brings us to the end of chapter 24. And he's on his way back to the front. And we'll see what sort of connection they maintain. There's a lot of strings attached with this one. All right, let's go ahead and set a bookmark. Get out of our reading nook for tonight. Yeah, I'm sure absolutely nothing will go badly. This is totally fine. Nothing could possibly go wrong. No. Leaving a pregnant paramour as he's shipping back to the front, that's nothing. Never went poorly. Ay. So, we'll be back with more A Farewell to Arms on Tuesday. This is, so far, going pretty well. We're about halfway through. And it is very interesting. It's very dramatic as it's going through, in a very peaceful sort of dramatic, which is very strange considering they're in the middle of a war. But it's interesting to see everyone's perceptions of the war. Everyone seems to think that it's not going to end, which is a stark contrast from most people's views on wars, where it's always just one more push, one more offensive, almost there. We'll have it won or lost or done and dusted before long. In this case, everyone seems to think that this is the new normal. A war that doesn't end. It just keeps going on and on and on. And that is profoundly depressing. So, we have the benefit of hindsight. Yeah, exactly. I'll act like it never did. It's all one thing or another as it just carries on. The same conflict with a different face each time. We can pretend, anyway. We can pretend. But it's always going to be the rich chuckle fucks that profit from everything, one way or the other. Damn it. I finished my drink, we're finished with our reading, and now we're getting maudlin. Come on. Alright, let's go ahead. I found a few potential places for us to raid over to. I think we're going to try and go over to our friend Oscurus VT. We've followed him, and he's reading Wuthering Heights tonight. I thought about going to the other guy who was reading A Farewell to Arms, but I thought, he could be further ahead of us, and I really would not want spoilers. So, we're going to save that for tonight. As much as an awesome coincidence as it would be, I can't do it. I can't in good conscience do it. So, as always, thank you very much for joining us tonight in our reading of A Farewell to Arms. Our next reading will be on Tuesday, as regularly scheduled, where we'll continue A Farewell to Arms, getting further and further along. As always, we have our VODs up on both Twitch and YouTube. The YouTube ones do not go away, so rest assured. If you're over on the YouTube side, a like on the stream and a subscription to the channel would not go amiss. It convinces the algorithm to send more friends our way. If you're over on Twitch, we've just recently made affiliate, and we're doing our best to make sure things still feel like home. So, if you haven't yet, I'd appreciate a follow. You don't need to worry about subscribing. Follows are plenty for me. I'm in this for the love of the game. But I hope you've enjoyed your time here, and I hope you enjoy our continued adventures through the written word. Until next time, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful night. We'll be raiding over to Oscurus VT tonight, who is reading Wuthering Heights. We've read that before, and have a love-hate relationship, or a hate-hate relationship with the book. It's not quite thorough, but the characters are eminently dislikable. So, let's go exacerbate things and give Oscurus our very best. Have a great night, and thank you.
And I wish Heathcliff may flog you